Hello everyone, a very happy Independence Day to all of you. I am Suma and I have Nivedita with me. We will be the hosts for this evening. On behalf of IALD, we would like to welcome all of you for this first event in the series of Lighting Saturdays 2020 events. IALD is the International Association of Lighting Designers headquartered in Chicago. Last year marked the 50th anniversary year of IALD. Under the leadership of Mr. Babu Shankar and Dr. Amardeep Tugar, IALD India chapter became a reality in 2015. Under IALD India, a number of hands-on lighting workshops were conducted in various colleges across the country. The workshop held in the month of February was the last one before the pandemic hit our country. Now, considering that everyone is stuck in their homes for the near future, Amardeep conceptualized a series of fun events to bring the lighting community together, have fun, and share knowledge at the same time. With the help of Kelly and Joe from IALD HQ, IALD India coordinators Tejas and Nikhil, and all the IALD India members, these series of events are now actually happening. Well, Martin Niemöller said, if you can laugh at yourself, you're going to be fine. If you allow others to laugh with you, you will be great. This is just what we have planned for this first event today. Aptly titled Lighting Bloopers, we have a lineup of presentations from IALD India members where they will present the bloopers or blunders committed during the course of their projects. Each presentation has 5 slides with a time limit of 5 minutes per presenter. So let's all laugh and learn together. We have with us 10 presenters who have come forward to share their experiences. Definitely appreciate their spirit and would like to give them a very warm welcome. Before we start, a couple of instructions. During the presentations, all viewers will be on mute. Viewers, please pay attention to all the presentations, as in the end, you have the responsibility to vote for your top 3 favorite presentations. So Nivedita and I will also be presenting our bloopers. We will not be a part of the competition and the voting. Without much further ado, let me welcome our first presenter and my co-host, Nivedita Sherawat. Nivedita is partner at Design Matrix and Design Objects. Hi, Nivedita.
Hi, Suma. How are you?
I'm fine. How has the lockdown been going for you, Nivedita?
Lockdown's going well. It's been a mixed bag, like it has been for most of us. But this session has been a welcome break, and it's good to connect with everybody. And I just hope everyone has a really good time with each of our special presenters today.
Over to you, Nivedita.
Thanks. So among those who are presenting today, we have those who supply lighting products and those of us who supply lighting services, upcoming lighting designers, women entrepreneurs, and all of them very brave souls. To kick off the presentations, I'm going to start right at home. Have you guys ever heard of a fan highlighter? Well, in my 15 years or so of experience, I had never until this one. And since this, I have only 2 things to say. 1, I have newfound respect for clients and who knows under what circumstances and constraints they need to open up projects. And 2, Amar, if you're listening, I need a special award for this one, for living with this in my house for the last 3 months. This image that you see on the screen, this is in our apartment, which we were renovating and were due to move in at the end of April. But thanks to a particular virus, not only were we 2 months delayed, but we moved in with a lot of unfinished projects. So on the day off, we had this ceiling light in hand and this wall point that was working, and that's where it stayed ever since. It's what I would call a lighting designer's nazar battu, and I'm pretty sure there's not an English translation for that, but it's something you do to ward off evil spirits. Next slide, please. The second and last one, because frankly, I don't have the guts to admit to any more bloopers. For a designer, a drawing is how we translate thought into constructible reality. But sometimes though, people get a bit too literal. This is a sculpture by the famous artist Mukul Goyal for a residence client in Jaipur. On the left is the photo of how the sculpture is lit. So there's a diffused circular lighting at the base and some spots above. And on the right is a snapshot of the CAD drawing that was shared with the contractor. And if you see, there is a continuous circular trough that houses an LED profile, which is shown as a green dotted line. It looks okay, except the line that was indicated the LED within the trough is now a non-continuous broken lighting at side, and what should have actually been a full circle of lighting. So to all potential clients and design collaborators who are tuned in right now, let me assure you that we have completed and successfully so about projects in about 11 countries, 45 cities, but this was a special installation even for us. And to Mukul and Shalini, who are tuned in, and the fact that you are still on talking and working terms with us, I imagine that there has been forgiveness. This is where I moved from center stage, and I'd like to welcome our presenters now. Our first presenter is Zubair Ahmed. Zubair is managing director at Studio Plus, and for those of you who know him would know that he's a bike enthusiast, and he would happily exchange a great day in office for a really bad day on a bike in the mountains.
Hi, Nivedita. You just caught me. I'm just going to take a bike ride. You just caught me in time.
I'm glad to have caught you, Zubair. How's the lockdown treating you?
Well, it's treating me well. I do miss my bike rides, but otherwise, it's been treating me well. I've been busy with my projects, with family, a lot of time with my family. So it's been pretty good.
Sounds great, Zubair. Over to you.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you for the introduction. Well, thank you, IALD. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, IALD. Thank you, IALD India. It's a wonderful Saturday evening. Let me start with my bloopers. My first blooper. We're not exactly in the ocean, having our sunglasses on and enjoying a beautiful summer day. We're right in the badminton court. We're trying to have a serious match here, and you don't expect the badminton players to be wearing sunglasses and playing on the badminton court. Well, obviously, there's a lot of glare coming out of this because the luminaires are right in the middle of the badminton court. Well, when we had just applied the luminaires for this project, so we didn't know actually what happened at site, but for our surprise, when we walked into the site, we saw that the luminaires were right above the badminton court. There was a saving grace after all in this project. The developer, we discussed with him, we told him that we need to change the lighting positions, and of course, he obliged. I'll move on to my next slide. Well, this was a furniture store. We had supplied some luminaires for this project. This project we were just doing the supply, so we never knew what happened actually at site. Out of curiosity, I asked the client to send me some images. To my surprise, I did see that most of the lights the ceiling was extremely busy. I was like pretty taken back. I couldn't figure out what happened. I called up the client and asked him. He said, I want to make sure that my entire ceiling is lit up properly. My furniture is lit up. I was like, oh my God. I mean, you could have just avoided putting so many lights. It happens, typically sometimes when you're not in control of the project, you end up, where a client has put in more than what's required. Well, we could have avoided. We could have just put lights in the right positions. We could have avoided excess lights. The energy could have been saved in this project. Well, such things happen. Just such goof-ups happen. Let's move on to the next slide. Oh, well, when we are on a flight and we have a beautiful air hostess in front of us, we tend to pay full attention to her. We don't look at the instruction card, obviously, but in a case where we have luminaires, we definitely need to look at it. In this case, it was a beautiful decorative light which we had imported from Italy. We had supplied to this client. It so happened that because the instruction manual was not followed, the installation sheet was not looked into, the project, it ended up where the luminaire failed. You can see the water filled up inside the luminaire. Such things happen when you don't follow the instructions. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Well, I mean, for this project, I thought we're going to have fireworks. That's going to happen in this project. This particular luminaire is an in-ground luminaire where it had to be with proper IP connections, with proper cables, and all of that. It so happened that because of the bad connections, which typically happens in these kind of in-ground luminaires, that the product will fail. Even if it's an expensive product, it can fail. So it's very important to make sure that your cable connections are good, your gel connectors are put in place, and then you have the right installation. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Well, as designers, as specialists in lighting, we can always talk about perfect lighting. We could probably say that one light can fit all. Sometimes we could also look at the light not in the right position. Sometimes we can go wrong with our color temperature as well, and sometimes we might not use the dimmers. This is typical. I mean, it can happen in any project, but always, like Thomas Edison said, there's always a better way of doing it. All we need to do is just find it. I'll be ending my presentation here. Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, IALD India. It was a wonderful evening. All the best.
Thanks, Zubair. Love the memes on your presentation as much as the installations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. Our next presenter is our very own Bijliwala, Linus Lopez of Lirio Lopez Electrical and Lighting Consultants. Hi, Linus. Linus is a diehard optimist and in eternal quest for the pot of goodies at the end of the rainbow. Welcome to the show, Linus. And if I may, what is the one lesson or learning or skill that you've learned this lockdown?
Just one. Okay, I think there were a couple. There were quite a few, but the most interesting ones would have been the advantages of Zoom meetings in Delhi, so that you don't have to deal with traffic. You just comfortably move from one meeting to another on a flick of a button. But I think among the more pleasurable ones was the fact that you could work in short pants. It's a big saving on laundry bills and absolute freedom to work.
I'm going to make sure, Linus, I don't ask you to stand up and take a bow at the end of this one. Over to you, Linus.
Thanks, Rag. So this discussion and story is about sexy sketches and grand graphics. I've always been smitten by sketches. And although I sort of lost touch in the middle in the first few years of engineering, I rediscovered this joy of sketching when doing the first few lighting design projects. But the real drama was sort of brought to light very powerfully by Nathan Thompson from Flaming Beacon, when he demonstrated how to show light by sketching. It was a very memorable masterclass many years ago. And ever since then, I've been looking for this pen and paper as soon as a design discussion starts so that I can begin sketching with clients and colleagues alike. Sometimes a little too early. As you will see in this next slide, we move fast forward to this very interesting, very exciting project, a design discussion about a proposed NOC. A NOC is a network operation control center. This was a smaller part of a larger office, and we were dreaming up things of how to make this control center look like the control center of a spaceship, like the USS Enterprise in Star Trek. We built this sky window, and started sketching it out, and you could look out into the galaxy with this array of monitors that were in front of you. And then we went on to the graphics. On the next slide, you will get a sense of what we tried to do by trying to integrate the lighting level of the center of the city that we were controlling. These were all major capitals in Europe, and we tried to mimic the daylight time at that control point. So we put this all together on these set of sketches and graphics, and over much coffee and some very sweet biscuits, we managed to sort of put this design together. But then you go forward to concept, and you take this into the design stage. Now, as you see in this next slide, the first drawings came in of the as-built nature of the site. And my staff came to me like really perplexed. They said, "Sir, what is this right in the center?" And lo and behold, we looked at this and we were confused because all the seats were sort of arrayed around this little square right in the middle, just where our sky window to the stars was. So we called up the architect and said, like, how did this happen? He says, oh, it's a small little column. It's just 800 millimeters by 800 millimeters. A solid concrete column up there on the 8th floor, right through our sky window. And very casually, he says, can you make it disappear? Oh, well, give me some dynamite and I will do it. Well, so what happened was we took it a little further. We took it to site, and what you see on the next slide is what we ended up doing. A little bit of a Houdini trick, some one-way mirrors, a little bit of spice to make sure that the client was happy. We got the constellation in on a 1:1 scale of the night sky over Chennai. We managed to get the daylight diffusion according to the time zone of the city that they were controlling. And I think we were reasonably successful in making that column disappear without the dynamite. So it was a lesson learned. Sketch your heart out. Take your graphics to the next level with each new project. But do take time out to visit site every once in a while and make sure you get all the relevant details before you advance those awesome sketches. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Linus. That was hugely enjoyable as always. Thank you so much for joining in.
Welcome.
Up next, coming up is Banu. Banu is proprietor at Balika Lighting. She's one of the most enthusiastic persons I've ever seen, and almost childlike curiosity about everything around her. Hi, Banu. Has the lockdown forced any new skills on you?
Yes, it did. It was a very new finding about myself. While my friends and my family were like complaining that they were feeling cooped up inside the house, waiting for the lockdown to get over, waiting to just get out of the house, I was surprised that I was actually at peace with myself. I could have continued in isolation for another 2 months. Yeah, I enjoyed the full lockdown quite a lot.
That's great to hear, Banu. And over to you, Banu.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. A lighting flop could happen anytime, anywhere. You'd never know where it is coming from. Guards high all the time. I actually paused a while to choose the scariest of them all. Had to restrict myself to two of the most challenging installations that made me lose sleep several nights. Let's get to them straight. What you're seeing here is the installation of a linear in-ground, a grazer. This is at the entrance of the building at the ground level, and underneath it is the car parking at the basement level. The drama actually began when Chennai received its first shower. We received a call from the site almost like 2 weeks later after we received the shower, saying that some of the fixtures were not working, some of the fixtures were flickering. The next day, my technicians went to the site. They did all the usual troubleshooting procedures, but nothing changed. The problem persisted, it remained. As a next step, they removed the fixture, and now let's find out what they found. Next slide, please. I could have let a couple of fish in there and they would have been very happy to swim in it. Can you believe the water had been stagnated there the whole of 2 weeks? We went back and forth to find out why the water was not draining. At the time of installation, while we were ticking off the items on the checklist, one of the questions we asked was if water drain pipe was provided, and we received the confirmation that the provision had already been given. My question was meant for the area where the lighting fixtures were installed, but the site engineer's affirmative yes was for the provision that they had already provided in the landscape area. Now, no one is to blame, but it was a typical case of miscommunication, which never should have happened. It took them almost a year to figure out a way to solve the issue. Can we move to the next slide, please? It certainly is a very jugaad way. You can see, the flooring below each fixture had to be punctured, and the water drainage pipe was provided for each fixture. It is an eyesore when you see this image, but it is certainly keeping all the fixtures intact, and the outcome is this beautiful installation. This installation taught us several things. What we see is not what we get. It taught me and everyone in my team to probe and to check and recheck in order to avoid such nightmares. Exterior installations are generally challenging. Even if one thing goes wrong, even if one thing is not in place, it sure is bound to land us in trouble. But we don't lose our sleep over interior installations, right? That's what I was thinking. I later on learned that there are exceptions. Next slide, please. I don't have to introduce this fixture. It's an iconic fixture, everybody's favorite. I was all excited about this project, especially because of this installation, because this was the first time I was installing this fixture. I was like waiting for the installation images to be sent. I thought I would be left in peace after that, but my favorite fixture was in pieces. Can we move to the next slide, please? Apparently, the installation did not go well. You should have seen my face when we received this fixture in a box. I must have had a deadpan expression, and the box really did look like a coffin to me. This taught us several things. All the efforts that the lighting designers put in a project and all the money that a client spends on installing a very expensive fixture, everything goes out through the window. It goes for a toss if the installation is not taken care. Probably this is the first time I'm not shuddering at the thought of these installations and laughing at it. Thanks IALD, and thanks IALD India for giving us this wonderful platform to share our silly mistakes and for coming up with a fantastic title. Looking forward for more such events. Cheers to IALD India. Over to you, Nivedita.
Thank you. Thank you, Banu. I think it's a story that all of us can relate to somehow, somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us now, I'd like to welcome Harshita Shetty, Principal Lighting Designer at Light Inspired Thinking. She's not only a lighting designer and architect, but a light artist and an avid reader. Hi, Harshita. Welcome to the event. And how's the lockdown going for you?
Hi, Nivedita. Thank you for your warm introduction. So the lockdown has been very eventful for me. I gave birth to my baby, and it was such a dramatic story. So that's another day. But I've been getting to spend a lot of time with her. So don't be surprised if you hear a wailing baby in the background. So I'm ready to start.
Lots and lots of love to the little one. And you're quite the super mom, Harshita, to be doing this and having this bundle of joy with you at the same time. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Sure. Thanks, Nivedita. So the first blooper that I would want to start off with is, this is a bar that we designed in a golf club in Bangalore. So the approach for the lighting here was, it was a layered approach, and the ambience was the main thing that we wanted to achieve here. So there are a lot of different elements that we've used. So there are cove lights and wall lights to give you this, ambient lighting. Then there are spotlights that we use to highlight the tables. So there's a good contrast between the tables and the floor area around. And then, of course, the bar, which is quite an interesting element. We designed a horseshoe-shaped diffused lighting elements to be suspended over it, and that provides good lighting on the table. And of course, there were these beautiful decorative globes that we suspended for visual interest. And then the walls had to be illuminated because it allowed for good navigation. So we have some lights along the walls as well. So now that you see, the lighting, you may be wondering where the blooper is. And I'm sure the perfectionists sitting over here, most of them may have identified, I found the blooper. But for people who haven't seen the blooper, we can move on to the next slide, please. So here it is. So this is a beautiful black paneled wall, and why aren't the lights aligned to the paneling? And trust me, this is not by design. Of course, our drawing said the lights had to be aligned to the center line of each of the panels. The electrical contractor and mistook some things. I'm not sure what exactly he did, but what happened was that he took dimensions from an AutoCAD drawing. Instead of aligning it to the interior interventions, he actually took dimensions and marked it, and which is why none of the lights are aligned to the panels. So even though you don't notice it in the first instance, once you see it, you can't not, you always see this blooper, and it troubles me so much. I think maybe if I had visited site a couple of times earlier, I could have avoided or I could have asked them to fix this mistake. But this is something I'll have to live with for now. So we can move on to the next slide. So this is the lobby of a workspace. So you can see the materials here are very, very raw, a lot of exposed concrete, shattered concrete, a lot of natural materials. So the space is quite beautiful. And what we wanted to do was to just really get the space to sing and really highlight the texture and finishes here. So the first thing that we designed was this custom-made brass light fitting with these diffuse globes in it. What this did was to throw this soft glow of light onto the ceiling, and this drew your eyes to the shattering pattern on the ceiling and gave this uniform light on the work area. The second thing that we wanted to do also was to draw your eyes towards the hand-woven vertical panels on the wall. It's quite a beautiful element. So what we used was just a 1 watt uplighter. It's just a 25 mm bezel. So we wanted it to look as discreet as possible, and so we used that's what we used. So in this picture, I think the blooper is a little more discreet. And to know what the mistake is, we'll have to go to the next slide. And there you see it. So if you see, we have our circular up lights, but then around it, you see this black mark, like a small square around it. And so you guys will be wondering what that is. So that is not intentional. So we provided a floor box to conceal the downlights and for the termination of the light fittings. What has happened, what we didn't realize was that it's an oxide flooring. So cement oxide flooring. So what happens is that water tends to percolate and enter through this porous material. So it has sort of gone around the fitting, and that's why you see the definition of the flow box. So the whole magic of lighting up this wall with these really tiny 1 watt 25 mm bezel disappears because you're able to see a flow box, and it's sort of drawing your eye to this, which was not the intention. So we can move on to the next slide, please. And now coming to the third blooper. So if you have a look at this, so this is the signage for my office. So what it is it's a brass cut letters, which is mounted on an acrylic panel, which is mounted on a ply with a laminate sheet on it. So the intention was to highlight this signage. So we decided to use a wall grazer, and by using a wall grazer, we wanted to create these really defined shadows. And with multiple shadows, you get a very dramatic effect. And other than that, since the letters were mounted on an acrylic base, it has a nice halo around it. So we were thrilled about the fact that one simple fitting could create all these wonderful effects, and it really showed the magic of what one light fitting could do. So we bought a wall grazer and we installed it. And when we switched on the lights, that's when we saw every single imperfection of the ply panel. So if you see the image on the right, that is what I had seen and paid my carpenter for the work that he did, thinking that it's all perfect. And this is lit with a diffuse source of light from the corridor. And we assumed that it's perfect. But when we switched on the light, we saw every dent, every bulge, every undulation, which really distracts from the beautiful lighting effect that we tried to create. So even though I like the effect, we keep this element switched off most of the times. So I think this is a good example to understand that light is such a powerful tool, but it has to be used rightly. We need to know when to reveal something and when not to. I hope you learned a bit from my mistakes, and then you don't make these mistakes again in your projects. Thanks. Over to you, Nivedita.
Thanks, Harshita. Those were some great learnings for all of us. Thank you. Joining us next is Sharmila Khumbat, partner at K-Lite Industries. Sharmila is funny yet focused, practical and ambitious, and considers herself very blessed. Hi Sharmila, how are you? Do you want to check your audio once, Sharmila? We're not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now? Am I clear?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. All doing well, Nivedita. Thanks for asking.
Sharmila, God forbid it doesn't happen, but where would you rather be in the next lockdown?
Right here, where I am.
Right. That's great. That's great. That's just lovely to hear. And over to you, Sharmila.
Thanks. Firstly, I would like to congratulate IALD for this hosting this wonderful event and a light-hearted event for a subject like lighting, which sometimes tends to get a little overwhelming. I'll get right into 5 of my experiences, and these are just experiences shared from a manufacturer's perspective and the learnings that we have had from it. So our first installation was actually an indoor project that we did, and these are actually indoor modules. It's about a 15-watt light source. The contractor had to install maybe about 300 or 400 of these on a ceiling, and fortunately or unfortunately, he did his job, but he used it a little more creatively. There were portions of the ceiling which probably didn't have the height and had height constraints, so he very creatively cut off the heat sink and installed the ceiling. So when you lit it all up for the first time, it worked, but slowly things started failing. And we couldn't quite really understand what was the reason for failure till we kind of like undid quite a few of these fixtures and found this specific installation being done the way it is. The learnings from this, however, has been like maybe we need to consider that multiple sites have various height constraints. So make your light source more compact and give them with various wattages so that this creativity could be avoided if possible. If you could move on to the next slide, please. This site was extremely interesting from when we got these back to our customer service department. There were like 600-700 pieces of these installed. And here I would say probably time was one of the biggest constraints. It was not planned well in advance, probably. And I cannot stress more based on the previous presenters that we had. Both Zubair and Banu had already cleared, and made my life easy, stating that how important it is to install your outdoor fixtures well. Here, I guess, because of time constraint, they straight away cemented the pathfinders right into the floor or the recess of the step and threw out all the boxes, which are the installation back boxes. So this can get to be a little challenging when you're trying to, want the fixture to work efficiently. So good learnings from this as well. If you could move on to the next one, please. Yeah, this is another installation where it's supposed to be an in-ground fixture, one of which is supposed to be a directional light. Wrong product for a wrong application, I would say. And on the right-hand side, the application that we have is actually a very narrow beam. It's a 7 to an 8 degree beam, uplighter, but quite honestly, it was not lighting anything. So significant as far as architectural element next to it was concerned. So unfortunately, a wrong installation, a wrong product for a wrong application. The next one, please. Yeah, this is a very common fixture that we use, especially for landscape. They are landscape designers' favorites. Your regular spotlights that we have. But in quite a few of these applications, the installation of such a small fixture, which is actually having about an 18-inch spike, is made to use like an in-ground. And here what has happened is that instead of having about 6 to 8 inches breather of the spike and the landscape or whatever your foliage is. This has been made to kind of like act as a buried light. And another challenge in this is that there is a step glass in front, so water kind of accumulates on top, and due to condensation, constantly the water starts dripping inside. So big learnings from this one is change the whole framework of the glass itself, make it come out and project a little bit so water does not stagnate. However, not the best idea to use a spotlight as an in-ground because it's not designed for it. I have my last one going to the next slide, please. This, I could not agree more with Linus when he says, as pretty as you can make your things, it is a great idea to visit the site. So in this specific application, we did have a challenge because it is actually a double height ceiling and 6.5, 7 meters, if I'm not wrong. And we had about 16 to 18 vertical lines running right through and through this main corporate building. What had happened is that the length of this particular linear recess was not measured to the dot at the site. And since these are MCPCB and they are on constant current, we didn't have the advantage of like cutting it off depending upon the site condition and making it work. Here it just got a little overboard where the installer just cut the PCB, threw out a couple of LEDs, and then the whole string started failing. A pretty expensive affair to go back up with the scaffolding and try to repair it, but good learnings. So this is back to you, Nivedita. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharmila. Those are some cases of extreme ingenuity. Thank you.
Thanks.
Up next is Kunal Shah. Kunal is founder and principal lighting designer, SPK Valo Lighting Design. You have 2 young kids, Kunal. How is the lockdown forcing any new skills on you?
Oh, well, yes, I've learned a lot of new skills this lockdown. I can mop, I can make my whistles, and I can make sure that the kids are staying well-mannered at home, you know. So it's been quite an experience.
Very nice. And what's keeping you busy these days? What are you reading or watching?
Well, I'm watching a lot of Peppa Pig with my kids. And when I get some time, I try to read this book called My Gita by Devdutt Patnaik. It's a very interesting read. I would recommend you guys to do.
I have to catch up with you after this and get some Gyan, Kunal.
All right. So I'm going to talk from the perspective. My bloopers are going to be from the perspective of when this practice is just starting and people are just taking you seriously. So we are all enthusiastic. We write the complete kundli of a fixture in our specification sheet. Kundli as in the horoscope, for the people who don't understand Hindi. We write all the details and we get these replies from the suppliers, which are a lot of times half information, which makes it very difficult for us to compare products apple to apple. So this was a great learning from the initial bloopers. We make sure that we give a compliance sheet to the supplier so that he can fill in all the required information. So that makes life easier, and it has helped us to improve a lot of suppliers the way they communicate also. So can we have the next slide, please? All right, this is another thing, this is not visible. Why do you want to spend on it? Most of the times we get this comments from the client, the architect. There are so many spike lights that are going to be used in the space. Why do you want to spend on spike lights so much? And initially, yes, we gave up as a practice. I said, okay, we use the local ones. They say, oh, this vendor, this local manufacturer has been there for a while. He's doing good stuff. But I mean, with all due respect to the manufacturers, there have been instances where the fixtures have not been to the rating claimed, and we have had these issues. So it's extremely important that we check the ingress ratings practically with the manufacturers before taking it. Today, a lot of Indian manufacturers are doing great with IP rated products also. Can we have the next slide, please? All right, this was another fun blooper we had. So this was an office in Bangalore, and this was a meeting cabin, a discussion cabin, so to say, for the office space. And this cabin did not have any walls on it. And so we decided in the initial design phase that, okay, we are going to use a passive infrared sensor to switch on the light circuits inside. Now, what was missed was this particular cabin had a shutter and not a door. So the door was, the shutter was always half open, and then the lights were being triggered inside whenever there was a movement in the common space. So, this was a good learning for us. Can we have the next slide, please? This was another very, very interesting and funny experience for us. This was a jewelry store, and I was giving all the gyan to the owner about visual comfort and the fixtures being of low glare and everything. But the owner says, Kunal bhai, all of that is great, but gole dikhna as in the glare, I mean the sparkle of the light fixtures has to be seen. And so that's the cultural part of lighting design. You know, the client knows his space very well. So it's important that we listen to him and then we give him what is required for them. Can we have the next slide, please? This is another blooper that we used to face is the driver always goes in the cove. It never ever goes into the place which is shown in the layout. But yeah, I mean, today we have to go to the contractor, talk to him about how the layout is to be read, where the driver has to go to avoid these bloopers. All right, hope you guys enjoyed these bloopers.
Thank you. Thank you, Kunal. I love the ghost. Yeah.
Thank you.
Up next with us is presenter number 7, Vijay Chabria, which is Director, Bombay Electrical. And here's something a lot of you may not know about him. Vijay is a mathematics wizard and moonlights as a science reviewer. Vijay, welcome to the session.
Hi, Nivedita. Thank you for introducing me. Things are good. The lockdown has been great in the first few months, and then it's been a little challenging with certain health issues, and generally to do business is not easy, but the challenge has also been fun. So I think the lockdown overall is teaching me a lot, and I'm sure everyone a lot. So we need to take the positives out of it.
Yes, that's so true. Over to you, Vijay. Stage is all yours.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thanks. This is one of a large project which we did of facade lighting, where we had several hundred fixtures. We planned it. We had special extension arms. We even planned for safety chains, because if some fixture gives way, we could have the fixture falling off. So we planned everything. We even had a supervisor at site. Even though we had planned for 4 visits for the supervision, we had a person for a long time. But we still have some issues like this where the product is not perfectly fitted, and hence we had to, I mean, this is done at site by the installation team. So it's like, keep the focus. Can't emphasize that in spite of all the precautions you take in supervising and everything, you need to keep on checking the installation to get it right. And also there are safety issues because the fixture could just fall off and go down a high rise. Next slide, please. This is another project where we were involved in the lighting controls, and the fixture supply was not in our scope. And this was a high ceiling stretch fabric skylight where we had tunable LED lights, so the light would change according to the time decided or the time of the day. And this just wasn't working when we started doing programming. There were different issues. We couldn't understand what was the issue. When we go and check, the drivers are all stacked together. It's like a driver stack. Once we separated the drivers, obviously the electromagnetic field was interfering. So we are supposed to keep drivers 10 centimeters away from each other at the minimum, depending upon which drivers you use. And the problem was again solved. So again, we need to check installations at site so that we don't have these issues. But again, a different learning in this project for us. Next slide, please. There's another very nice project which we did. However, we started off with this product. We put it up, did the mock-up. In the end, again, due to time constraints, the contractor has done quick plastering. He's plastered over it. So this is like a plaster it kind of installation. Again, you know, the problem many times is that nobody reads the installation manual. A lot of these details are there. So the first thing we need to do is probably, as an installer or whoever the installer is, to read the installation manual, maybe emphasize the installation team to do that. Again, it's communication is the key to getting these things right. Next slide, please. Again, I call it the water collector. We have used the IP box, and not we, the installer has used the IP box, connected the cables. Everything is, so this lacks common sense, which is, I mean, common sense is not that common in this installation. It's not, you know, as we say, common sense is not that common. So this is a project where, again, they had to change all the IP boxes and get the installation right. Again, we have to check the installation when we go to sites. Next slide, please. I call it light the light. There's an architectural light on top and a decorative light at the bottom. Obviously wasn't planned. A lot of times in projects, there's a little mismatch between the decorative lighting and the architectural lighting. Again, needs to be integrated seamlessly. Sometimes missed out because architectural lighting is handled by lighting designers, decorative lighting is handled by interior designers. Something missed out. Again, it's about planning and coordination to get the project right. All I would like to say is that most of the issues I mean, I've been in lighting for like 15, 20 years and cannot emphasize the importance of communication, coordination. We are more interested in supplying the product, but the other parts are equally important, including installation and maintenance. Thanks a lot, Nivedita. I just wanted to share some of our experiences. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Those were some profound site learnings. Thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah.
Coming up next, I'd like to introduce Sandeep Anand. Sandeep is currently enrolled in the Master's Lighting program at Wismar University, Germany, and he's one of our upcoming lighting designers. Hi, Sandeep. Welcome and great to have you on board.
Hi, Nivedita. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm here to present a few bloopers, as we all know. So I'll take it from here. Thank you, Nivedita. A
little bit about Sandeep before I hand him the mic. Sandeep is a self-confessed. Yes. He's a team player and here to learn. Sandeep, what are you reading and watching these days?
Well, in these testing times, as we all know, as we all are going through testing times, I've been very interestingly reading things about, you know, true faces of people. As you know, the tough times get out the actual true colors of people. So I've been busy watching how the actual colors of people are coming out in this wonderful times that we're going through currently. So those are the things I've been reading.
Great learning curve, you know.
Right, thank you.
Stage is all yours.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you, Nivedita. Okay, now, this particular blooper, this reminds me of kindergarten. How kindergarten basically, I remember A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then comes Z. So basically Z is how this particular blooper came up. We had to design lighting for a company whose first logo started with the alphabet Z or Z, as I would call it. And when I asked them to make a first sample of Z, this is what came up. inverted C, if I would call it. So this was one of the first bloopers. Luckily, it didn't go through the client, and we could rectify it. We saw it actually before going to the client, so we could see it and we could take it to the next level and get it corrected. I'm not putting up the real image though. Thank you. What is this? I would like to say, are these wine glasses hanging around there in this beautiful hut, or are they some sort of, I don't know what they are. Well, they are exactly where they're not supposed to be. This is what happens when things go a bit haywire in terms of coordination. As each and every one of my colleagues has been talking so much about coordination, I would like to stretch on that same subject a little bit. This was a bit miscoordinated, wherein the ceiling changed and the hut came out of nowhere. And as you can see, the ones that are marked over there, the lights are installed in the hut, and they are actually, I think, about 3 feet away from the floor. Clearly, where they're not supposed to be, they are supposed to be on the ceiling. This is one of the bloopers as we had on the side. Next slide, please. Okay, I would like to say that all bloopers are actually not bad bloopers. For example, this particular blooper that we have, these are profiles which are custom made. These are actually recessed profiles. They're supposed to be within the particular rafters. They were not supposed to be rafters, supposed to be recessed within the ceiling. The recessed profile, as I said before. Voila, when we go to the site, there's a new ceiling that has come into place. Again, as I said, miscoordination. And they are, instead of being recessed in the ceiling, they're actually recessed, they're actually surface mounted on the rafters. Luckily, they fitted well. That's why they're good. And it gives a nice effect. The whole room is lit up quite evenly, as you can see it. And it's not bad. It actually looks quite well. It gives a nice design effect to the whole place as well. So this is one of the good bloopers I would follow. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. Now this particular one is for a client's showroom. It's a lighting showroom, which is based in India. And I was invited to come in for the opening of the showroom. Luckily, I went there before the opening, as it was owned by a friend. And when I actually went there, the first thing that you see in the place is the clients, or any shop, any establishment's name board. So this is what we had. And all I would say is, thankfully, we have this particular board lit up in such a way that, thankfully to bloopers like this, our fraternity of lighting designers will flourish. You can see how the lighting has been installed over there. And so this was one blooper. Luckily, we corrected it before, so he didn't have to face that thing as the main thing. So he went ahead and changed it. But I said, change it, let me click a photograph to actually change it. So this is how it looks like. Next slide, please. Okay. This particular blooper is, if you see on your left, that is the actual image of the track fixture. The track is a trimless track fixture. There's no supposed to be any flange or any width to it. This is the image on your left is the actual mounting of the trimless track. And there's a very innovative way of how the actual contractor has mounted the fixture. It's with the actual flange coming onto the ceiling rather than recessing it within the ceiling, so that it's invisible. So it was very funny, this thing. And when we went there, he had finished the site and everything was done. And he said, this is what it is. Why have you given us something which is so thick? And I went and told him that there was obviously a miscoordination and we had to change it. So this was one of the bloopers that we faced on the site.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harshita. Thank you.
Your bloopers remind me of how much I love how there is serendipity in lighting design, and you don't know when ceilings change and furniture moves, and you don't know.
Well, well, life is like that. It changes without
Yes.
notice. So this is how it is. We're going to make the best out of it, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Great
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.
Coming up next is Hussain Burhani. Hussain is Managing Director, Hazel Lighting. And you guys need to brace up for this one. Hussain is not only a professional ex-cricketer, but he holds an MBA degree with specialization in financial derivatives. From options and swaps and futures, you're now toggling between IP rating and lumen output, huh, Hussain? Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Nivedita. Thanks for the illustrious introduction.
And what's keeping you busy these days, Hussain?
Yeah. I mean, yes, the lockdown has given us a lot of time to do things which we always wanted to do and were not able to do, like wearing short pants, as Linus said, and then doing the vessels at home and learning how to mop the floor and amongst all the other things. Right? So, yeah, I've been currently reading What It Takes by Stephen Schwarzman of Blackstone, and also trying to catch up on Netflix with Drive to Survive Formula One. So yeah,
Wow.
it's been a good like lockdown overall. Yes.
Great. Over to you, Hussain.
Yeah. All right. So let's celebrate these bloopers. So diving into the first one, how do you complement a beautiful facade light fixture? By painting the whole building later. So what you see is a beautiful Victorian building facade where the lighting was supposed to be done. On the right hand side, lower image that you see is how the building was when it was presented to us, and we did I executed this lighting project where it was completed as you see on the above image on the right side, and the client came up. They really liked the lighting, everything was fine, perfect, well executed, and they said, you know what, why don't we paint the facade? So what we had done is we had matched the fixture finish with the facade earlier. Now we had to do the whole thing again and bring down all the fixtures, again match them and do it again. So in the end, it turned out well, but then yeah, and after thought, turned out to be very painful for us. So that's the first blooper. We move on to the next slide, please. Please. Yeah. So next is this huge convention center of 15,000 square feet with a 26 feet height. So what you see is RGB W fixtures installed, all in the ceiling. Now the contractor had laid all the DMX cables in the ceiling very nicely, and everything was perfect. But somehow he forgot to get those cables to the main AV room where the main control was placed. So I mean that's a surprise that you get, right? Everybody has been talking about visiting sites every now and then, but we all know how long a project goes. So in the end, we had to come up with a wireless solution where all of this is controlled with one iPad. So that's why we say that this convention center is so used that the cables fell short. Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. All right. So the third blooper is corridor curve installation. So what the lighting designer had specified was an angular profile to nicely wash the entire ceiling from the curve. But then it was decided that it's too bright, and the profiles are just flipped, and what you see is a bright band of light. So this is what we call jugaad, which is something that even Banu mentioned. And what jugaad actually means as per Oxford is it's translated as a flexible approach to problem solving that uses limited resource in an innovative way. And this surely was a very innovative way of doing it. Yeah. We move on to the next one, please. This is a big one. All right. What we have here is an LED tile where each single LED is programmable, and it is connected to this. The whole system is connected to this elevator, which you see on the left image. So the entire thing is programmed with ThyssenKrupp elevators, where when you press the top button and the lift is moving up, the lights keep moving up, and when the lift is moving down, the lights keep moving down, and when it's stationary, all the lights are on. So this was way back in 2009, 2010 when this technology was fairly new, and I must admit that this is the most challenging installation that I have come across in these years of practicing lighting. So we supplied these tiles. What you can see on the four corners, you have these small holes for mounting this LED tile, and probably the site electrician wanted to be uh, wanted a very rigid mounting, and he wanted a very solid mounting. So what he did is he went ahead and he drilled screws in the LED tile, assuming he could do it, and he mounted the entire thing, and he said nothing works. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of sleepless nights then. We can laugh on it now, but yeah, it's something that we cannot forget easily. We had to replace them, and in the end it went well. So as the slide says, they turned to GCB for installing this PCB, and they literally screwed it. Yeah. Yeah, the last one, Joe. All right, so the solar street lights here are definitely vitamin D deficient. So the client was very specific here. It's a residential complex that they wanted only solar street lights, and we ended up supplying them all solar street lights. But as you can see in all those pictures, most of these street lights do not get any sunlight at all. So yeah, they were definitely vitamin D deficient. Yeah. So that's it. That's it from my side. Hope you guys enjoyed and had fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nivedita.
Thank you. I love the Jugaad engineering. Thank you so much. It's time for our last presenter before Suma joins me back again. Nikhil Vivekar is Managing Director, AIMS Private Limited. He's an avid traveler, has a keen eye for documentaries, and an absolute pet lover. And if I know Nikhil well enough, I'd say he has 3 kids, 1 son and 2 dogs.
Yes.
Nikhil, I hope I got that right.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for that introduction, Nivedita.
And what's the one new skill or learning or lesson this lockdown for you, Nikhil?
Well, I think during this lockdown, everyone has learned something or else. So do I. No. So I think maybe the first thing that I've learned is nothing is impossible. And especially when it comes to managing a house, I literally have done everything, right from cooking, washing utensils, cleaning furniture, and etc. But surely it's actually had a fun. So it was great to learn. Yeah.
I'm sure you have a very happy wife, Nikhil. The stage is all yours.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. Let's go to the first slide. Okay. So my first blooper is this project where we use these linear surface mounted light fixtures to light up the ceiling, as you can see in that image on the left side. Yeah. So during the installation, everything was fine, and suddenly, we receive a call one day, that one of the areas of this terrace has these handrail, and that the shadow of that is actually falling on the wall and on the ceiling there. So, so we thought to visit the site. We went to the site, and we were surprised to see that local jugaad, as everybody says, so local jugaad was done by contractor for fixing this light, and literally they had put a cantilever, cantilevered light from the parapet using those L channels. Guys, I think it's such a scary to do, something like this at a 20-story high building, where the wind pressure is so high, and trust me, it could have been a disaster. So luckily we got them removed and suggested some more. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so this is the second project where this is actually lighting to a ramp which goes down to the basement area. Okay, so again here, same story. We got a call from a client, and we had given these ramp washers, typically, the traditional way to light up the ramp. And so we got from a call from these clients, saying that the lights are not providing light on the floor. So maybe it's too dark. So we require your visit. And when we visited, to our surprise, the step lights were literally put upside down, so kind of a reverse manner, and all light was directed upwards instead of throwing on the ramp base, So luckily, what happened was these lights were all square in shape, so we could just turn it back in the right way, and the problem got solved out. Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, I'm sure almost all designers must have seen this kind of a situation, where people literally using plastic over an IP65 rated product, especially during monsoon. So what was shocking to see in one of my sites here was an IP67 product which was installed along with the plastic that comes with the packaging. So it was really a terrible work. And in the middle image that you see, it's actually a typical example what happens when there is an excess of heat. So absolute blunder that was. Yeah. So can we go to the next slide? Okay. So this is a project where we were asked to do a review of, and when I saw these lights in the ceiling, I asked the client, what is the intent of the design? Because they are small lights, fixed in some manner in those ceiling. So the client said that we wanted to replicate a starry sky effect. Guys, by any chance, does it look like a starry sky? It does, at least for me, it doesn't. And the worst part is the patches in the floor, those spots that are created on the floor. So this was really hilarious. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh yes, this is very funny installation that I think I've come across this in my life. This is like a linear light of 3 meters in length, just suspended with one single rope in the center, literally swaying like a pendulum. I think it's a fantastic blooper to end from my side. So I hope you guys had fun. Back to you, Nivedita.
Thank you, Nikhil, for sharing your experiences and for joining in.
Yeah.
And as they say, last but not the least, Suma Khandige is founder Light Vista. Based out of Bangalore, she adores her cat Mimi. When not working, she loves reading fiction and listening to music. And to sit and watch the rains or the ocean waves is her idea of absolute relaxation. Suma, I hope you know I'm almost envious of you. And the closest I can think of ocean waves is the white noise app I play for my kids on the phone so they can sleep. Over to you, Suma.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you so much. Yeah. Now, this was actually a case of ducks everywhere and no place for a light. Let me tell you how this happened. Once the first set of drawings were issued to site, the client had a requirement to accommodate more seats, due to which the interior layouts got revised. While we at our end were blissfully unaware and working on drawings to modify the lighting layouts, the HVAC contractor at site went ahead installing the HVAC equipment as per the earlier drawings. Now, only when it was time to install the lights did we realize this blunder. We had huge HVAC ducts all over the place where we had planned to install the lights. Now, redoing the ducting was not something the client wished to undertake, obviously. The result was the absolute mess that you see in the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, thanks, Joe. So not funny. We had lights crossing the ducts that were already laid out. Not only did it give a messy appearance, the suspension height of the luminaire also had to be reduced to accommodate all the other services. Now, this has really taught me an important lesson. I always need to remember that I cannot think of my work in isolation, and that it is very important to keep track of the changes happening at site from the other services and interior perspective. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. Now, while this cartoon is actually a slight exaggeration, it still conveys the idea of the second blooper that I wish to talk about. A lot of thought and sample review, mock-up, etc. went into the selection of the luminaire for the pathway. Now, typical to many projects, by the time the lights got delivered to site, it was close to the opening of the project. The project team at site got the electrical contractor to fix the lights overnight. And we were in for a rude shock when we visited the site. The lights were not actually doing justice to the pathway. In few places, the lights were actually at a lower level and hitting the side of the raised pathway. And the worst part was that the contractor had cut off all the extra cables and finished the dressing. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, definitely not something that I'm proud of. It could have easily been avoided if I had communicated to the client that we should take the time to first fix and review one light before giving the contractor the go-ahead to complete the installation. Again, it reiterates how important it is to anticipate and preempt such bloopers from happening. Can we have the last slide, please? Yeah. Now, this is something that has happened a couple of times over the years. The nice product and the installation images that we see in the websites and the catalogs inspire me to use them in my projects. And my expectations are all really high, and in my mind, I see the space turn out in a particular way. But then during the installation, sometimes we don't get what we expected. The decorative pendant ends up getting stuck high, almost touching the ceiling, and definitely not the way I imagined. So yeah, these are some of my bloopers contributions to today's evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Uma. I loved the sketches. Thank you.
I have to thank my husband, Harish. He's the one who translates my thoughts into cartoons.
Thanks, Harish. Thanks to you from all of us. All right, everyone. This is the final part of the event. You saw all the presenters. Hopefully you saw all the presenters. And this is where we test you. In the chat window below, you'd see a small link pop up. Please click on the link and vote for your top 3 presenters. Those who had the funniest or the most entertaining bloopers. Please note, Suma and I are not part of the list. Our role was merely to facilitate. But please vote right now, and we'll quickly put your votes together and declare results. The prizes are Amazon cash vouchers for the top 3 winners, and are really just a token of yours and our appreciation to the presenters. While you vote, a big shout out to the people who made this possible. Our sponsors for the prizes, and they are displayed on the screen. Gorgeous Light and Thea Lightworks. Thank you, guys. To Joe and Kelly, who join us from IALD USA, thank you for helping out with all the tech stuff. To Amardeep Dugar and to Nikhil Divikar and Tejas Doshi, co-coordinators at IALD India. Our esteemed panel of presenters who had to put up with non-stop badgering and messaging and emails. Thank you, guys. And it was great connecting with you over these past couple of weeks. And of course, a big thank you to all of you who have tuned in today. Voting is still on. And while we wait, just to remind you to join us again on Saturday, 12th September for an extremely enlightening lightning quiz. Suma, do you have the results?
This is Joe from the ILD. Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. The poll is still open. Only about a third of you have voted. So why don't we go to the video, and then I will close the poll during the video, and then I will send the results to you, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, if
Guys,
you want to introduce the video, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Today is indeed a very special day. We are celebrating our 74th Independence Day. So to celebrate it with light in our own style, we would like to play a short video. This is a temporary light installation done by Mr. Tejas Doshi, co-founder and chief design officer at Light and Beyond, in collaboration with B2B, who are the ideators. The location is Kolkata, and the project is the 42 Eastern India's tallest residential tower. For those of you who would like to see the video again after the webinar, please find the link to it in your chat box. Joe, could we please play the video now? Enjoy the videos, guys.
All right, I am going to close the poll right now, and I will send you the results. So give me 30 seconds. If you want to talk about the next programs or how to, about anything else, go ahead while I get these over to you.
Thanks, Joe. Our next event is given at the screen below, 12th September, for an extremely enlightening lighting quiz, and we look forward to having you guys all here. Wishing you all also a very democratic, secular, and an enlightened Independence Day from all of our sides. While we'll take a couple moments now, and as we quickly put together the voting results, and we'd like to announce the winners before we close the session.
We would encourage you to keep track of our events since we have a whole lineup of events planned. So look forward to having you join us for all those events too.
Absolutely.
I'm sending them to you now. Give me 1 second while I copy this over.
No problem. It's been a great time, and we really enjoyed having these sessions and connecting with our colleagues and friends, and I think we really did what this event was intended to do, just to get together, have some fun. At least all of us did, and we hope that you did too. The next session.
And I think talking about the bloopers made it feel a little less bad about actually having done the bloopers.
Yeah, I guess I can live with that thing in my house for a little while longer. So absolutely.
I've sent them over to you now.
Thanks, Suma. I'm missing your view.
Do you want to announce?
Go ahead, Suma.
Okay, so we have the results with us. In third place, we have Zubair. In second place, we have Hussein.
Good job, Hussein.
Thank you so much.
In first place, we have Harshita.
Wow. All of you, please switch on your cameras.
All the winners, we would like to have you come on screen. Please turn on your videos. We would love to see your happy faces.
Harshita, many congratulations to you. I hope the baby brings you much joy and lots of good blessings.
Thank you so much. That's great. I can't turn on my video, but this is such a great thing. Thank you.
No problem.
Congratulations, Harshita.
Congrats, Harshita. Congrats, Hussein. Thank you, Nivedita.
Thanks everybody for joining in. We'll see you next month, September 12th. Please block your calendars. Namaste and Jai Hind.